My name is Elena Holloway, and I'm 22 years old. I write code faster than most people answer texts. I can debug in my sleep. I can map out product flows on napkins in diners at 2 a.m. But in my parents' house, none of that mattered. I was just the backup kid, the safe one, the one they assumed would be fine without help. In our house, risk was only a problem when I brought it up. When my little brother Luke pitched something, it was vision and entrepreneurial spirit. When I pitched something, it was reckless and ungrateful. Same dining table, same parents, same wine glasses, different rules. The night everything started, I sat at that table with a printed pitch deck neatly clipped together. My hands were actually shaking, which annoyed me. I was prepared. I'd spent a year building a real-time collaboration tool for video creators and editors, AI-based sync, script tagging, version tracking. Basically Google Docs for video, but actually built for how editors work. I called it Syncly. I'm not asking you to buy me a company, I said, the pages of my deck in front of Dad. I just need runway. $50,000. I have beta users. I have a working prototype. I've got... Dad rubbed his temples like I'd asked him to donate a kidney. Elena, he sighed, that's not how business works. You can't just throw money at ideas. Be grateful for what you have. Across the table, Luke hid a smirk behind his glass of red. I swallowed. You threw money at Luke's ideas. Mom laughed lightly, like I'd told a joke instead of a fact. Oh, honey, that's different. Different, right. The difference was parked in our driveway. When Luke wanted his fourth chance at some luxury brand consulting venture, Dad wired him $200,000 and signed the paperwork on a brand new Jaguar with red leather seats. You have to spend money to make money, Dad had said then, actually winking like he'd dropped a line from a TED Talk. Now, looking at my carefully stapled pitch deck, he wouldn't even flip the first page. Elena, he repeated, this isn't Shark Tank. What if it fails? I almost laughed. Fails like Luke's food truck? Or the crypto newsletter? Or the ergonomic wine opener Kickstarter? Luke's chair scraped back an inch. Wow, he said, chuckling. Tell us how you really feel, Garage Girl. Garage Girl. His favorite nickname for me since high school, when I filled the garage with old monitors and Ethernet cables instead of sports gear. Mom nearly choked on her wine the first time he said it, laughing so hard she had to dab her eyes. Dad called it harmless sibling teasing. Still trying to invent the next Facebook in your pajamas? Luke added now, under his breath. I didn't look at him. I looked at Dad. I'm not asking you to throw money at ideas, I said. I'm asking you to invest in something that already works. Syncly saves video teams dozens of hours and revisions. I have emails from creators. Dad slid the deck back toward me with 2 fingers. You're not ready, he said. Finish your degree, get a stable job. If your app is really that good, someone else will fund it. We can't risk that kind of money, not after everything. Everything meant Luke's disasters. Somehow, his failures had used up the family's risk budget, but he still got to drive the Jaguar. I stared at the pitch deck, at my own name on the cover. I thought of the late nights, the misaligned monitors, the way my eyes burned after staring at code until dawn. I thought of my boyfriend Marcus texting me mid-sprint. Proud of you, you tiny maniac. Don't forget to eat. Marcus believed in Syncly more than my own parents did. That realization hit harder than I wanted to admit. Okay, I said finally, voice too calm even to my own ears. Thank you for considering it. I took the deck, stacked it neatly, and stood up. Elena, Mom said, don't be dramatic. I'm not, I replied. I'm done. That night, I lay awake in my old bedroom, peeling wallpaper, Ethernet cables coiled like vines around my desk. I could hear Luke pull into the driveway, the Jaguar purring like a spoiled cat. Dad's laugh floated up from the porch. I checked my phone. 1 unread text from Marcus. How'd it go? Tell me they cried from pride. My thumbs hovered. I typed, deleted, then finally sent. They said it was too risky, again. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then came back. Come stay here. I'll move the drum kit. We'll make it work. I smiled despite myself. Marcus always offered. He worked in logistics for a shipping company, the kind of guy who loved spreadsheets and knew every shortcut across town. He wasn't flashy. He was solid, stable, the opposite of my family. I stared at his message for a long time before I typed back. I love you, but I need to do this my way. I've got another offer for a couch. The other couch belonged to my friend Jeremy. His family ran a tiny local print shop downtown. It smelled like ink and nostalgia. Jeremy's parents had already told me I could use their unused back office if I needed. I packed before sunrise. No drama, no slammed doors. Just my backpack, my laptop, my hard drives, and my pitch deck, the one my father hadn't read. I left my house the way I'd lived in it, quietly. Jeremy's back office was a dusty corner, a squeaky chair, and a heater that clanged like it had PTSD. It was perfect. For the next 3 months, I worked like a woman possessed. I picked up back-end freelance gigs to afford instant noodles and bus fare. I cold emailed VCs. I DM'd angel investors on LinkedIn. I showed up at demo days in coffee-stained hoodies, hair in a messy bun, heart pounding. Every no made me hungrier. Every ignored email sharpened my next pitch. At night, Marcus would FaceTime me from his apartment, framed by a pile of laundry and a constantly refilling mug of tea. "You look like a raccoon," he'd say lovingly, a very determined raccoon. "I'm building the bin," I'd shoot back. "Sankly is the bin." He'd grin. "Then you're the raccoon queen." Sometimes, when the rejections stacked up, I'd catch myself wondering if my parents were right. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I was just garage girl with Wi-Fi. Then I'd open my inbox and see emails from beta testers. "This saved us 40 hours on one documentary. How did this not exist already?" I printed the first one out and taped it crookedly above my desk. My fake diploma. One rain-soaked Tuesday, I got an email that didn't look like spam. Subject, Spring Cohort Invitation. Forge Labs Accelerator. I read it 3 times before my brain accepted the words. They weren't offering money, not yet. But they were offering desk space, mentorship, and a seat in a room full of people as obsessed as I was. When I told Marcus, he whooped so loudly I had to hold the phone away. "Elena, this is it. This is the thing. Your parents are going to eat their words." "Don't get ahead of yourself," I said, but a tiny, petty part of me pictured Dad's face reading the acceptance email. Forge Labs changed everything. Suddenly, I wasn't the weird girl hunched over a laptop in a print shop office. I was one of 12 founders, all sleep-deprived and wired on ambition. We swapped bug horror stories and investor names. We fought over the good meeting room like it was a throne. 6 months into the program, Syncly wasn't just an idea anymore. It was growing. Editors used it. Creators talked about it. Someone at the accelerator forwarded my demo to a tech journalist they knew. I didn't expect anything. Then one morning my phone exploded. TechCrunch, from garage to growth. How a 22-year-old is reinventing video collaboration. There it was, my name, my product, a photo of me in my stained hoodie, smiling like I'd just found out gravity worked in my favor after all. I sent the link to Marcus. He replied with 36 screaming emojis. Then, "I'm printing this and framing it. Also, I'm telling my boss my girlfriend is cooler than his Tesla." I sent it to Mom too, just the link, no caption. Seen, no response. In my mind, I could hear her reading it next to Luke, rolling her eyes. "Tech articles are all paid promo these days," she'd probably say. "Anyone can get in TechCrunch." Meanwhile, Luke, his Instagram, went dark. Gone were the rise and grind selfies in the Jaguar, the coffee table photos with business books he clearly never opened, the reels about mindset hacks. Jeremy's cousin, who worked at a car wash, told me he'd seen Luke there, not washing his car, but begging the manager for a part-time job. I didn't say anything. Not to Luke, not to my parents, not to Marcus, who would only call Luke a clown and inflame my guilt. I just built 6 more months. Syncly closed a $750,000 seed round from 3 angel investors who didn't care that my family thought I was reckless. They cared about churn, retention, and feature roadmap. I was still working out of the old print shop office half the week and Forge Labs the other half. Still wearing the same 3 hoodies on rotation. But suddenly, I had something I'd never had before. Leverage. That was when my phone rang. Not a random number. Not a spam risk. "Dad?" I stared at the screen until it almost stopped ringing, then picked up. "Elena?" he said, voice too smooth, like a script he'd rehearsed. "Just wanted to say congratulations. We saw the article. Your mother says you've really been working hard." I didn't say anything. I wanted to see where this was going. "Well," he continued, "we were wondering if you had some time to stop by. Just family stuff, you know." "Family stuff." "I have some time Friday," I said slowly. Good, he replied. "We'll see you then." When I pulled into the driveway 2 days later, one thing was missing. The Jaguar. Luke sat on the porch, scrolling through his cracked phone. No gold chain, no designer sunglasses, Just a wrinkled hoodie and a look I couldn't read. "Elena," Dad said, stepping outside with an expression he'd never worn from me before. Forced warmth. "You look well." We sat at the same kitchen table where he'd once pushed my pitch deck back at me like it was contagious. Mom fidgeted with her napkin. Luke wouldn't meet my eyes. "So," Dad began, clearing his throat, "Luke's going through a rough patch. Understatement of the century. And we were thinking," he continued slowly, "since your company's doing so well now, maybe it's time to bring things back together, unite the family." I blinked. What does that mean?" Mom jumped in. "He means maybe you could sell part of Sinkley or—" "Bring Luke in," Dad said, cutting her off. "Just for optics. Show that we build things together, for the Holloway name." There it was. Not pride, not apology. Legacy. I looked at Luke. He wasn't embarrassed. Just expectant. Like the Jaguar had been on back order and I was the new dealership. "Let me get this straight," I said quietly. "You want me to sell part of my company so Luke doesn't look like a joke?" Dad straightened. "It's not about you, Elena. It's about unity." I pushed my chair back. The legs scraped the floor. "Then we're done here," I said calmly. I turned to Luke. "Next time you want equity in something, try building it first." I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just walked out. For the first time, the silence behind me felt like mine. The first sign that something was wrong came 3 days after I walked out of my parents' house. My phone buzzed with a Google alert. My name. For one dizzying second, I thought maybe another tech blog had picked up our seed round announcement. I wasn't prepared for what I saw. A Reddit post. Title: Entitled Tech Girl Refuses to Help Her Bankrupt Brother. Family Ruined. The username was new, but the writing, the tone, the details... I'd heard that voice my entire life. "Luke." I tapped the thread, heart pounding. The post read like a soap opera script written by someone who'd failed English twice. "My sister got lucky with some AI app, and now she thinks she's too good for us. My parents are heartbroken. She doesn't believe in family. Money changes people." There were even blurred photos of me leaving the house. The slouch of my backpack. The angle of the porch light. It was unmistakable. My hands started to shake, not from anger at first, but from disbelief. I had expected resentment. I had expected whining. But a public smear campaign? That was new, even for Luke. Within an hour, the post hit 3 startup subreddits. Strangers called me selfish, arrogant, entitled. One user wrote, "Typical tech bro behavior, even when the bro is a girl." My stomach twisted. And then, because the universe loves adding salt, my boyfriend's ex, Sabrina, shared a screenshot of the thread on her story with a single emoji. No names, no context. But her followers knew exactly who she meant. Marcus texted me 2 minutes later. "Ignore her. She thrives off drama." I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen, feeling something cold and heavy settle in my chest. My family had never celebrated my wins. But watching them twist my success into betrayal? It hurt in a way I didn't have words for. That evening, I got a Slack message from Sinkley's lead investor, Javier. "Hey, Elena, saw some noise online. Don't stress. Want me to loop in our PR team?" My cursor hovered over the reply box. My brain screamed yes. My pride whispered no. I typed back. "Appreciate it. No response needed. Not feeding trolls. Professional. Calm. Exactly the opposite of how I felt." When I shut my laptop, the silence in the old print shop office pressed in around me. The radiator clanged like an exhausted soldier. I finally called Marcus. He picked up immediately. "Elena, you okay?" I tried to say yes, a lie. My voice cracked instead. "Why would he do this?" Marcus sighed. "Because he's drowning and you're above water." But that wasn't it. Luke wasn't just drowning. He was taking shots at everyone on the shore. 2 days later, karma tapped me on the shoulder. I received an email from Mr. Adler, a retired angel investor who used to golf with my dad when I was a kid. He'd always treated me like the coat rack in the room, invisible unless something needed hanging. Subject line, "Your work with Sinkley." I braced myself for some lecture about family unity. Instead I got, "Elena, I recently came across your platform. Impressive work. I also saw some online drama. Happens more than you'd think. Talent rises above noise. Would you be open to a conversation?" I blinked at the screen. This was the man Dad spent years trying and failing to impress on the golf course, and he wanted to talk to me. We met for coffee the next morning. He shook my hand, asked thoughtful questions about product retention and team culture, and not once did he mention Luke. He hated drama, he said, loved founders who moved quietly and built loudly. When he asked to join my next round, I nearly dropped my cup. Luke's smear campaign had accidentally handed me an investor. Life is poetic like that, especially when the poet is petty. Meanwhile, Luke doubled down. Screenshots poured into my inbox from people who knew people who knew people. His vague posts. Some people forget where they came from. I guess loyalty means nothing these days. Watch me rise again. Rise from what? He never built anything to fall from. Sabrina, of course, liked every post. Marcus sent me a screenshot with the caption, "You'd think he invented oxygen the way he talks." I wanted to laugh. I couldn't. Because beneath the absurdity, something darker stirred. Luke wasn't just petty. He was dangerous. He didn't care if he burned the entire house down as long as I looked bad in the smoke. A week after the Reddit fiasco, another article popped up on my radar. It wasn't about Sinkley. It was about us. An online magazine ran a think piece titled, "Sibling Rivalry in Tech, When One Founder Builds and Another Breaks." They didn't use our real names, but the description was unmistakable. One sibling builds an app in a garage while their family mocks them. The other launches an internet drama campaign that backfires spectacularly. Marcus texted me, "This writer is brutal. Your spirit animal?" I smirked, just a little. But then, the last line almost made me choke. Ironically, the smear campaign boosted the founder's visibility and attracted new investors. I wanted to frame it. The final hit of the week came from the investment firm Dad had wanted me to sell a majority stake to. They emailed, not to inquire about buying Sinkley, not to express interest in Luke, but to ask if I would advise their media tech division. At the bottom of the email, one line stood out. "Your brother reached out first, but after due diligence, we prefer you." Dad must have loved that. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. A calendar invite from my father. Family dinner, mandatory, hand-delivered by Luke. No explanation, no context. Just an opportunity, I assumed, for them to rewrite the narrative again. A part of me wanted to ignore it, but another part, the part that had gone to war with silence my entire life, whispered, "Let's see how far they'll go." So I accepted. The night of the family dinner felt like walking into an ambush I could already predict. But curiosity is a powerful poison. I wanted to see what story they were planning to paint this time, what version of me they would try to reshape, what new angle of guilt they would weaponize. When I pulled up, the driveway lights were already on. The house looked staged, too perfect, too polished. A set designed for reconciliation no one actually wanted. I rang the doorbell. Dad opened it with a smile stretched too thin. "Elena, you look professional." I glanced down at my black blazer and jeans. I came straight from the office. Luke appeared behind him, wearing a wrinkled button-up that was supposed to make him look humbled, but instead made him look hungover. He didn't say hi. He didn't need to. His eyes said everything. "We're doing this because you made us. Don't ruin it." Mom ushered me inside like I might bolt at any second. The table was set like Thanksgiving. Candles, folded napkins, wine glasses polished to a shine. The last time they did this much prep, Luke had been pitching a luxury houseplant consulting business and needed $30K to get the brand off the ground. Dad cleared his throat. "Let's all sit." I sat. Marcus texted me seconds later. "You got this. Don't let them maneuver you." I placed my phone face down. The performance was beginning. "First," Dad said, lifting his wine glass, "we want to acknowledge your recent accomplishments." Mom nodded vigorously. "We are so proud of how far you've come." Proud. The word dropped between us like a prop being placed on stage. "Thanks," I said, "but I'm guessing this dinner isn't just about that." Dad paused, too long. "Well, there is something we want to discuss." Of course there was. Mom's voice grew soft, the kind of soft that always preceded manipulation. "Honey, your brother has had a difficult year." Understatement. Luke stared at the table, jaw tense, not embarrassed, just annoyed that we weren't talking about him the way he wanted. Dad continued, "Given your company's success, your mother and I think this is a perfect moment to unite the family, present a stronger front, show we're all in this together." I blinked. "In what exactly?" Mom reached forward, touching my wrist like a peace treaty. "We think it would be wonderful if Luke could join your company, maybe even take a leadership role." I stared at her hand until she pulled it back. "Leadership," I repeated. Dad nodded. "Just for optics. Investors love a united family, and with Sinkley doing so well, it would help restore confidence in the Holloway name." There it was, the real reason. Not love, not healing. Brand management. I leaned back. "You want me to give Luke a job so the family looks good?" "Not a job," Dad corrected. "A stake, a real position." "Something meaningful," Mom added. "You've always been the humble one, The practical one. You don't care about titles. But Luke does, I finished for her. Her silence was confirmation. Dad folded his hands. And we're not saying you should give away control. Just a portion, something symbolic. It would really help your brother rebuild his reputation. And ours. Luke finally looked up, eyes cold and expectant. He wasn't ashamed. He hadn't come to apologize. He'd come to collect. And what do I get? I asked softly. Dad smiled. Unity. I laughed. Quiet. Humorless. I needed unity when I asked for $50,000 to get Sinkley out of the garage. You said it was too risky. Luke asked for $200,000 and got a Jaguar. Mom flinched. That was different. Right, I said. Everything is different when it's Luke. The room froze. Dad cleared his throat. We were simply trying to help the child who needed it most. I stared at him. Funny. That was never me. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Luke shifted, annoyed the spotlight wasn't flattering him. I stood slowly. I'm not selling my company. I'm not handing Luke a title. I'm not giving you a redemption arc. Dad's jaw clenched. Elena, be reasonable. I smiled softly. I am, for the first time. I turned to Luke. If you want a company, build one. Or at least get a job that lasts longer than 3 months. His face darkened, a flash of hatred I had never seen before. I walked toward the door. Mom called after me, voice trembling with frustration. Elena, we're trying to heal this family. I turned back. If you wanted to heal it, I said, you would have believed in me before everyone else did. And I left. The internet got louder the next morning. Luke posted an apology video filmed in his car. He wore sunglasses and looked like he'd practiced crying in the rearview mirror. Caption, time to take accountability. I messed up, but I'll always love my sister. Fake sniffles, piano music, dramatic cuts. It got 11,000 views. But the comments were devastating. Someone reposted the Reddit thread Luke had written. Someone else dug up old screenshots of him mocking garage weirdos who coded instead of partying. Another user posted, isn't this the guy who stole an influencer's itinerary package and resold it as a business? Within hours, the video became a meme. Marcus sent me a compilation edit titled, Luke Holloway, The Rise and Fall and Fall. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. 2 days later, tech media picked up the drama. A Verge-style outlet ran a piece about toxic sibling rivalry in the startup world. The opening paragraph? One founder built an app in a garage while their family mocked them. Months later, their sibling launched a smear campaign so incompetent it boosted their visibility instead. It didn't name us. It didn't need to. Dad must have cracked a tooth reading that. Meanwhile, Sinkley user numbers spiked. Investors emailed me congratulations. VC scouts slid into my inbox. And then came the email that sealed the irony of the year. The investment firm Dad wanted me to sell to? They reached out, not to buy Sinkley, not to fund Luke, but to hire me as an advisor for their media tech division. At the bottom of the email, your brother contacted us earlier, but after due diligence, we prefer your expertise. I sat back in my chair and whispered, ouch. Not for me, for them. A week later came the startup summit. I almost said no. I was tired, drained, emotionally wrung out like a dishcloth. But Marcus insisted. You need this, he said. Not for them, for you. He was right. The summit was held in an enormous renovated warehouse filled with Edison bulbs, espresso carts, and founders wearing company t-shirts like armor. I wore my usual black hoodie. No logo. Let them guess. My panel was last. Title, Building in the Dark. Founders who were ignored before they made it. Perfect. When I stepped on stage, I brought no notes. Just one slide. A grainy photo of Jeremy's back office, cold pizza box, squeaky chair, tangled cables, whiteboard with version 2, do not crash, written in permanent marker. The audience chuckled. This, I began, was my world. No fancy accelerators at first, no mentorship, no family board members, just caffeine, panic, and a dream I couldn't let die even when everyone around me did. They laughed. They leaned in. I continued. I asked for help once. $50,000. My family said it was too risky. The same month, my brother was given $200,000 and a Jaguar for his 5th failed business. Gasps. A few knowing groans. My success didn't happen despite being ignored. It happened because of it. When no one shows up, you learn to build your own chair at the table. I paused, softened my voice. And if you're smart, you install ejector seats. The room erupted. And then I saw him. Back row, arms folded, jaw tight. Dad. Of course he came. Of course he watched. I didn't miss a beat. I was never the favorite, I continued. I was the fallback. The she'll figure it out eventually kid. But here's the thing about black sheep. I leaned forward. We get tired of the barn, so we build our own fences, our own home, and eventually, our own empire. The applause shook the floor. When I left the stage, people swarmed me. Photos, handshakes, DMs. I escaped out the side hallway, adrenaline buzzing under my skin. Elena. I froze. Dad stood there, tie loose, face pale. I didn't know you were speaking, he lied. I raised an eyebrow. You like the slide? He flinched. Hard. I didn't realize you felt that way, he said softly. I stared at him. You didn't realize anything, Dad. You were too busy funding the golden child while I was coding at 3 a.m. in a janitor closet. He tried to steady himself. We only wanted the best for both of you. No, I said calmly. You wanted the best for me, for him. He swallowed. You made your point. I smiled. No, the market made my point. Then I walked past him, down the corridor lined with digital screens showing Sinkley's growth, surrounded by founders who now looked up to me, not him. He didn't follow. The week after the summit felt strangely peaceful, like the emotional storm had finally exhausted itself. Sinkley's metrics climbed at a steady burn. Our user base shot past 1.5 million. Studios and creator teams emailed about partnerships, and a mid-tier streaming platform wanted early conversations about integrating our workflow tools. For the first time in my life, I lived somewhere with real walls instead of plywood dividers. Sunlight hit my desk in the morning instead of fluorescent flicker. I had a team, 14 people who cared, hustled, and believed. People who weren't waiting for me to fail. I thought that meant the drama was over. But people like my parents don't disappear. They regroup. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I was midway through a sprint review with my product team when my assistant, Priya, poked her head into the conference room. Her expression was a mix of fear and confusion. Elena? There's someone in the lobby who says she's your mom. My heart dropped and rolled somewhere under the table. The entire team looked at me with wide eyes, like the words your mom were a plot twist they hadn't expected. I exhaled. Send her in. Priya blinked. To here? The conference room? Yeah, I said. Might as well let the spectators see the episode. A few people snorted accidentally. I didn't blame them. Mom stepped inside wearing her church apology outfit. Soft beige sweater, pearl earrings, the faint smell of expensive lotion meant to signal dignity. Her eyes roamed the room, absorbing the monitors, the charts, the people. She looked overwhelmed. Good. Wow, she whispered. This is incredible. I mean, you really built something. I did, I replied, without any help. Her smile faltered. Elena, honey, I know things have been tense, but we're family, and your father, well, he's been having a rough time. I stayed silent. She took that as encouragement. His business connections are drying up. After your summit speech, people at the club started asking questions. He feels embarrassed. My chest felt strangely hollow. Good, I thought again. Let him feel something for once. But I only said, and this is my problem because... She blinked. Once. Twice. Elena, we didn't mean to hurt you. We just didn't think you would ever resent us like this. I let that sink in. Resent. An emotion they had created but blamed me for feeling. She pressed on. Your father and I, just need a little help. Sometime. He's trying to refinance the house. But with everything that's happened, the bank is hesitant. And, I asked, voice level, we just need you to vouch for us. Sign something. Nothing big. Just your name to help the process. There it was. Not love, not remorse, not even reconciliation. Just paperwork. I walked to my desk, picked up a framed photo. My team, smiling after a product launch. Pizza boxes stacked behind us. I held it out. This, I said, is my family now. Mom's face cracked. Elena, sweetheart, please, we made mistakes. Luke's ashamed, deeply ashamed. He wishes things had gone differently. I stared at her. He's ashamed enough to post an apology video filmed in his car, I said quietly, but not enough to apologize to me directly. She had no response. I set the photo down. Mom, I said, gently but firmly, I'm going to send you back with a number. She straightened a little, hope flickering. Yes? 0. She blinked. 0. $0. 0 favors. 0 signatures. 0 more conversations about legacy. 0 tolerance for guilt. Her mouth opened and closed like she couldn't breathe. Please show yourself out, I finished. She didn't cry, didn't argue, didn't slam the door. She just left. The silence she left behind felt clean, almost peaceful. Priya peeked back in after a minute. Was that okay? I smiled faintly. Better than most episodes. The team laughed. Tension dissolved. And just like that, I thought it was over. I really did. But then came the email. Not from Mom, not from Dad, not even from Luke. From their old family lawyer. Subject line, request for consideration, family estate. The email was almost poetic in its audacity. Your parents would like to discuss the possibility of restructuring shared assets, namely the original family home and associated land. Given your current financial position, they believe you may be uniquely positioned to preserve the Holloway estate and uphold the family legacy. I nearly spit out my coffee. They wanted me to save the house they wouldn't let me stay in after high school. The land they swore would always belong to Luke. The property tied to a legacy they never allowed me to be part of. Instead of replying, I called Jamie, a friend who ran a distressed property acquisition firm. Send me the address, she said. I did. She called back 15 minutes later, excited. Elena, this place is undervalued and in financial freefall. If you want it, this is the moment. I looked out my apartment window, the city lights reflecting off my glass desk. Buy it, I said. Cash? She asked. Cash. 2 weeks later, I stood inside the foyer of the Holloway house. Empty, quiet, a mausoleum of bad memories. The walls were still full of framed photos. Luke graduating, Luke with his first car, Luke holding the family dog. Not a single photo of me. I walked room to room. My footsteps echoed against the hardwood floor. In the backyard, I met with a contractor. We talked blueprints, renovation timelines, security systems, office layouts. The next morning, I emailed the family lawyer. Subject Holloway property, update attachment, 2-page PDF. Page 1, proof of purchase. Page 2, a photo of a large sign already staked in the yard. Future home of Sinkley HQ, powered by the name you thought wasn't worth the investment. I didn't get a reply. I didn't need one. A neighbor snapped a photo later that week, sent it anonymously to my business email. Dad stood outside the sign, staring up at it like it had personally betrayed him. Luke stood next to him, sunglasses on, pretending he didn't care. But the caption the neighbor attached said everything. Legacy secured, just not theirs. That night, I hosted a team dinner in the backyard of the house. We grilled steaks, passed around drinks, laughed about sprint disasters and feature mishaps. Marcus wrapped his arm around my waist the moment he arrived. No one mentioned Luke. No one mentioned my parents. No one mentioned the Holloway legacy, because we were building something better, something real, something that didn't require permission or validation. As the sun dipped behind the roofline, I looked around at my team, my people. I didn't save the family name. I replaced it. I thought buying the house, posting the Sinkley HQ sign, and shutting the door on their legacy would be the last chapter. A clean ending. Curtain down, credits rolling. But families like mine don't exit stories quietly. They linger like smoke. The final email arrived 2 weeks later. Not from Mom, not from Dad, not from Luke. From Dad's business partner, Mr. Halpern, a man who had always shaken my hand without looking at me. Subject line, a request regarding your father. I almost ignored it. But curiosity is a terrible friend. I opened it. Elena, your father is stepping down from several boards. The fallout from recent events has been difficult for him. He wanted me to reach out in hopes you might reconsider assisting with the refinancing of the estate. He believes this could provide a path to reconciliation. Reconciliation, a word that felt like sandpaper in my mouth. I deleted it without replying. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed again. A number I didn't recognize. I nearly let it go to voicemail, then answered. Elena. My father's voice, frayed, thin, unfamiliar. I stayed silent. He exhaled shakily. I saw the house. Also the sign, I thought. It was clever, he said, though the forced chuckle cracked in the middle. I said nothing. He continued, your mother is upset. I'm trying to keep things together, but the financial situation is complicated. That's not my burden, I replied calmly. Elena, please, you're talking to me like I'm a stranger. You are a stranger, I said softly. You never wanted to know me unless you needed something. Silence swallowed the line for a full 10 seconds. Then he tried a different tactic. We made mistakes, but... Mistakes? I cut in. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. What you did was build an entire identity around Luke being the chosen one, and me being the afterthought. Elena, you didn't want a daughter, I said. You wanted a spare part. His breath hitched. I didn't realize you felt that way, he whispered. Because you didn't want to realize it. Another stretch of silence. Then he said something I never expected. You're stronger than I ever thought you'd be. For a split second, my throat tightened. It wasn't praise. It was regret disguised as admiration. But I didn't need either. I'm strong because of what you didn't give me, I said. He made a soft, broken sound. I'm sorry. It was the most sincere thing he had ever said to me. And still, I didn't want it. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up. And for the first time in my life, there was no guilt hanging over me. Just quiet, peaceful, final. The last twist didn't come from them. It came from me. A few weeks later, Sinkley had its major product launch event. We booked a sleek warehouse venue, laser lights, huge screens, a buzzing crowd of founders, creators, editors, and media. My team, my family, worked like a machine. Marcus stood backstage, giving out granola bars like a nervous dad on recital night. Breathe, he whispered every time he passed me. Sabrina, thankfully, was nowhere in sight. Her online attention-seeking fizzled once she realized Marcus wasn't looking her way. Before the show started, my CTO handed me an envelope. Backup speech notes? I asked. She shook her head. Audience gift. I opened it. Inside was a sleek black card with silver lettering. Holloway, but redefined. Below it, Elena Holloway, founder, CEO, builder of her own legacy. My breath caught. My team had printed hundreds. The audience would find them on their chairs. When the lights went down, the room erupted in anticipation. I stepped on stage, heartbeat synced with the LED pulse behind me. Behind me on the screen, a photo of my old garage desk setup, the coils of Ethernet cables, my cracked monitor, the peeling wallpaper. My story started, I began, in a garage nobody believed in a family that called me Garage Girl, like it was the punchline to a joke. A murmur rippled through the room. But here's the truth, I continued. Some families don't build you. They sharpen you, and you get to choose what to do with that edge. The screen shifted, Sinkley's new interface glowing across the massive LED wall. I chose to build. Applause thundered. I scanned the crowd, not for my parents, not for Luke, but for the people who mattered. My team, my partner, my future. When the applause finally faded, I ended it with the words that had been growing inside me for years. You do not owe your past a future. Build the life that chooses you back. The room went silent for half a breath, then exploded. After the event, Marcus wrapped his arms around me backstage. You did it, he murmured into my hair. We did it, I corrected. He kissed my forehead. Your dad came. My heart stuttered. What? Marcus nodded. He came, he stood at the back, he listened, and then he left. I didn't look for him. I didn't need to. Some stories don't need to be reopened to be finished. A month later, Sinkley HQ officially opened inside the old Holloway house. Fresh paint, clean lines, glass offices, high ceilings, open collaboration spaces where dusty hallways once suffocated me. The photo wall, filled entirely with my team, not a single frame missing. Marcus and I stood together in the foyer during the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Feels like a resurrection, he said. No, I replied, smiling. It feels like justice. The crowd cheered as we cut the ribbon. I looked up at the sign above the door. Sinkley headquarters, founded by the girl they called Garage Girl. Not spiteful, not vengeful. Just truth. Real. Earned. Mine. And somewhere, maybe in their living room, maybe in their silent kitchen, my parents would see the news coverage and realize something. They didn't lose a daughter. They lost the future they never believed she could create. And I didn't feel victorious. I felt free.